Basically, I'm dealing with the challenges that we face in reform, and the problem that we have, and part of it is people want a single panacea, and I still get asked, what is the way of doing something? And there are many, many ways of doing things that work in different environments, and we just have got to get away from it. We also need to accept complexity, and for colleges that's not difficult, but for social sciences it was when someone told you that your work was too complex, that was that was meant as an insult. And we've got to get to the point that we can understand complexity and harness it and not reject it. And then, of course, we need to understand the benefits of institutional diversity. We have a big effort to save biological diversity, but let's not forget the importance of institutional. So let's look at that panacea trap for a moment. A lot of the policy, and here I feel ashamed because much of it is written by political scientists, and our policy literature is full of the best way. But of course, economists have done a good deal of this also, so it's not any one discipline that has done it. And even when people assume uncertainty, they put a certain probability of events occurring, and then what's the optimal way of going given that. What we need to understand is the differences among resources at different scales, so that it's how do we enable people to make rules and governance arrangements that reflect those differences, rather than presuming that the rules can be uniform and not take them into account. One of the sources of panaceas is, of course, Garrett Hardin's article and his presumption that the users were helpless and trapped. So the reason he used the term tragedy was he wanted to stress that they were really trapped. And then he said, imposed government or private property. They're a little different, but he put them both there. And now some people propose community control as a solution, and then say, and that's yours, isn't it? And my response is again, no. It frequently works, but it doesn't always work. And so we've just got to get out of that kind of thinking. All of the panaceas that people propose can succeed, and all can fail. And it depends on the specific institutional setting and the ecological setting, how they fit. So then we must accept complexity. And if we think about medicine, medicine 125 years ago was not a science yet. It took a lot of heavy work to try to understand the systems within the systems within the systems in the single human body. I had a colleague bring me a textbook for the first year of medical school, and it was this big, and a chapter on every one of the subsystems. And medicine isn't a perfect science yet, but it has begun to really harness and look into complex subsystems and how they work. We frequently have a nice assumption of linear additive. That's beautiful when we do statistical analysis. That helps us greatly if it is linear additive. But we just can't assume away complexity of nonlinear systems just because we'd like to do statistical analysis and that's easier. So we have to dig in and look at what are the decomposable elements and how do we sort them out. And in order to do that, you have to recognize the value of institutional diversity. And the looking at one of the things that people have found amazing is as we have done meta-analysis of case studies and done our own field work, we've discovered hundreds of rules in use out there in the field. And the rules of sustainable systems are different and fit the difference. For example, in the Terai of Nepal, one of the big differences is east-west irrigation system versus north-south. And it's not just the direction, but the north-south are predominantly on a hillside and face entirely different problems than east-west, which are flat and under monsoon. So, you don't think of east-west versus north-south, but one of my doctoral students did a dissertation looking at both irrigation and forestry and found really major differences in the rules that people were using. So I'm going to do a little bit of a review. Some of you will have seen some of these slides before, but I'm going to take you on a little bit of a travel tour. And we're going to go to the Maya Biosphere Reserve, because so many people think the way to protect everything is a reserve. And this happens to be a case in which there are some real successes. Two, but for different reasons, and some real failures. We're going to be looking at Tikal National Park. It has a very big budget, and it's able to fence and get tourists in. Laguna del Tigre is severely over-harvested. Sierra del Lacandon is severely over-harvested, but way up there is El Mirador, that isn't, and it's protected by nature. This is Tikal National Park. People come from all over the world to visit Tikal, and they have a very major, and this is a shot of it, and they're incredible archaeological findings there that have been preserved, and as you can see, the countryside is just gorgeous. They charge a very big fee. They fenced it. They have guards. They have a huge budget, and they send their budget doesn't exhaust their revenue. They send revenue up to the Guatemalan government, which is very happy with them. So there is a success. Way up here, in terms of the El Mirador, you have, again, another national park, which is, by the way, dark areas mean that over a 15-year period, there's hardly any deforestation at all. And so both of these areas are very successful. But there, nature protects. It takes 2.5 days by mule to get up there. And so you can't bring timber from there and things of this sort. But when we go down here, and this is a biotope, but look at the national park here. See all those big red things? That's rather massive deforestation in it. And when you get down to this national park, look at that. That's huge trucks coming in and taking out timber. And so you're seeing two that are failures, real failures, two that are successes, but for different reasons. And so it's not that all national parks are bad, but we shouldn't look at it as a panacea. Now, let's go to India and the nearby, the Tobadaba. Yes. Yes. Thank you. It's an underfunded national wildlife reserve with multiple outcomes. We do have a stable forest in the center, but the park guards aren't able to control harvesting at the edge, and we'll turn to a few of complementary field studies to take a look at it. Here are your borders. Well, when you see a border, and look, here's you got clearing, it should stop there. It isn't. So the clearing is coming right on in. Clearing is coming right on in. Now, down here, there's regrowth in the middle. But clearing here, those boundaries are making no difference whatsoever. So that you have a national park where boundaries should make a difference, but they're not. And finding women harvesting thatch grass from within the park and just carrying out every day. So things were going out every day, and you would see the people with bringing the cattle in, and here's the marker. This is the property right supposed to be. But day after day, they would come in.